when listening to and watching the updates to the web-based platform, to really think about it through your own lens. You know, as a project, we're all part of this MHPIF community. And one of the things that's really important to the Hub is that, you know, sort of the positioning, the framing of anything having to do with the MHPIF, and especially the funded projects within it, that we are honoring of, you know, what's most authentic to you. So without belaboring this, my hunch is this may link to some of your own objectives that you have for, you know, your websites or other types of communications, just for clarity about the sort of main goals of the Hub's web-based platform. And without getting into, you know, sort of super formal language with it, essentially, our goal here, or our vision, is that it truly is a one-stop shop for information and for connections related to the MHPIF. And I think you know by now that the 20 funded projects are the Hub's sort of primary and initial partners or audience for this. Something that we'll be discussing with you much more in the near and longer term future is what we have as our so-called secondary audience, which is other members within other people, colleagues, leaders, mentors across Canada and beyond, who have interests that are shared with one or more projects, be it about specific populations or settings, mental health promotion more broadly. And so ensuring that we don't keep this, bubble around the MHPIF, but actually part of what we discussed in the last webinar about supports for yourselves as project, that whole sort of systemic supports that many people seem to say, yeah, that really resonated. Well, being able to attract and engage with other people who have similar interests and can actually help create conditions for your success, that's part of those are other groups that we want to be able to engage on the website. So essentially that one-stop shop, we really want to do what we can to ensure the relevance, the timeliness, the credibility of all things MHPIF, which includes all of us, and to the extent possible, influencing through the web-based platform development of the child and youth mental health promotion system and different communities across Canada. So that's just from sort of the overall purposes of the web that we'll try to address over time. And with that, I'll pass things over to Eric to do the tour. Thanks, Eric.
Awesome. Thank you, Barb. Bonjour tout le monde. Hello to everyone. I just will flip over to sharing screens with the other, with the website, just a moment. All right. So again, we invite you to put any questions, comments, reflections in the chat as I'm going through, but also we'll have a bit of time afterwards, after this particular portion, for any questions, any clarifications. Basically, I'll just do a quick walkthrough of some of the changes we've made over the last couple months with that public launch lens in mind. We really wanted to have another solid review of the website and make updates that we see as important for that collective understanding of the MHPIF, of the KDE Hub, of the funded projects, etc. So for starters, what you see probably right now is that we did change the colors a little bit around to make it pop a little bit more. You might remember, for those of you who were on the previous walkthrough of the website, the primary color was gray. We found that to be a little bit on the I don't want to dull-ish side, so we moved to the Hub teal, and personally I think it looks quite a bit sharper. But one thing to make note of as well once we're launched publicly is that there will no longer be a login required to access the majority of the website. That being said, so that means things like the resources and the information about the projects on their landing pages, the overall information about the Hub, the homepage, etc. Those will be visible to users who are not logged in, but there will be still a sign-in function for any private functions that we have set up on the website for groups within the MHPIF community. For example, the one that is currently set up being the forums. A sign-in will be required for that, that project-specific forum still, but that will come with the public launch. You'll see here, we added a little bit of structure to the About page to talk a little bit about our vision and niche, our team, which includes the individual profiles, our story, which includes our history, and our story, the hub story, the MHPIF story that is built over time, and a description of the MHPIF section as well. And within each of those pages, as it will be throughout the website, there will be links where appropriate to other parts of the website. So for example, in the What is the MHPIF page, we have a high-level summary of the projects and a link directly to the projects page where we can find the landing pages. Just go down a little bit. We also spent a little bit of time pulling out, and this was part of that about section rework, pulling out a little bit of what was on the homepage to make it, you know, we understand that when a user comes to the page, they might not necessarily know much about the MHPIF at all, or about the KDE Hub, or about the funded projects. So just a quick description on the homepage and more detailed information within the About page. And you'll see that the blog posts, the most recent blog post shows up as well on the homepage. In the footer of each page, there is now a sign up to receive monthly updates from the Hub. So anybody who's interested in those monthly updates that are currently sent to the funded projects, they can sign up and see those as well. Another piece that we did was in the bottom, cleaning up the navigation bar here and including some quick links. These quick links are accessible elsewhere, but it's just a way to quickly get to places like the forums. And then these next three are kind of archived web page sections that include all of the blog posts, all of the event briefs, and all of the monthly Hub updates. Again, links to those individual posts exist elsewhere on the page, but these pages here are archives of all of them. So you can come here to go back and see the past blog posts and when they were posted and still have full access to them. And of course, with the quick links, I mean, there is absolutely opportunity to add more there over time, depending on what we see useful or necessary, or depending on perhaps the analytics of the use of our website. We may notice that people are particularly going to a certain section of the website, and we can always include that on the quick links and shift things around. One thing that we will be doing as well is opening up another forum a forum for discussion around navigating research ethics. So this is something that we've heard from a number of projects and in different discussions over the last couple months around, you know, when is it appropriate to have research ethics done, a review done, and some you know, assistance with how to navigate that. And so what we'll do is we'll open up a forum for research ethics, we'll share some initial principles and supports that have been provided thus far by the Hub, and invite projects to either share where they're at with ethics processes or any questions that might be or burning issues that might be currently going on. So again, once that's live, we'll invite you all to come have a look and participate in the discussion as needed. And again, you know, the forum section is kind of that at your leisure type of sharing. We hope that it will over time kind of be a place that we can go to find sort of like a Q&A, answers to previous questions, and anything that happens within the forums, anything that might be worth sharing in a different way or more broadly or in a more permanent type of format. We can always create summaries of the discussions that go on and any, you know, responses that take place there. I'll just move over to the projects page now as well. This may be familiar for some, but we did add a little bit of higher level information about the projects, the 20 funded projects, for a couple of purposes. I mean, one, to give a quick snapshot of some of the approaches and populations and settings that are involved, but also, you know, each of these terms here implies that they can be searched as keywords, and you'll see just above the project section right here, and we invite them with these instructions. The keywords can be searched to find any projects that that are related or involved with those, whatever population, approach, setting, etc. And we'll kind of create a more complete list of those keywords over time and make it perhaps a little bit more obvious that you can filter or search like that. But when you come to the projects page at the start, all 20 projects are listed below. Another update that we included here was about the context of the pandemic primarily, but just to acknowledge that context of what's kind of been going on the past few months. So this, we pulled, it was actually FAC who shared some summary notes from the conversations that the funded projects had with them around those pandemic pivots, and which is also a subject of the latter half of this webinar. But we wanted to acknowledge that and have that and show that the presence and acknowledgement of the current situation, and provide a few bullet points here that touch on some of the pivots that already have been undergone or will be undergone by projects, as it was noted in those FAC conversations. So this is just an update. It might not necessarily be here permanently, but for now we thought it would be worthwhile to leave some space for describing that context.
And Eric, before you move from that page, important point, I mean, the one line that is in the very first paragraph under update June 2020, the final line that says, see the landing page for each project for adaptations specific to them. We actually had, I mean, these are so many sort of real-time sort of changes. We'll actually delete that sentence because those are things that are just going to shift so rapidly that in order for those to be represented accurately or for everyone to feel comfortable with them being shown publicly, we think it's best, like what we chose to do was a little bit more of a summary of these in general are the kinds of things that are happening across the projects, and we won't do that, or our thinking right now, unless anybody feels really strongly about it, is that we won't do those project by project specific updates as it relates to COVID adaptations.
Yes, thanks for pointing that out, Barb, and it's true. We do, you know, not only with the public launch in mind, we do want to have that opportunity there for projects if they wish to either update how things are described, how their project is described on the website. It can be specific to pivots that are going on now or have already taken place or not. And that will be something that we will create that opportunity. I mean, the opportunity is always there for, you know, the funded projects for you to suggest any changes or review what's up here now that is a description of your project. But with the public launch in mind, we'll have that opportunity to connect with each of you to say, here's how your project landing page looks now with the public launch in mind. Check for accuracy if you would like. So that we'll be sure to do that before launching publicly as well. And of course, at any time, we invite you to peruse the website as a whole, but also your own, the way the projects are described and your own too, at any time. And similarly, if there's any additional links to websites or social media accounts or updates to the banner photos that have been selected, that of course it will be part of that as well. Okay, and one other thing I wanted to show as well is just where another place where the event briefs are located and where the recordings for these webinars, this one included, are saved. So shortly after each webinar, the ones that are recorded anyways, we will post the recording in the event on the date that the webinar took place. So right here is today's, obviously no recording there yet, But if we go back to the developmental evaluation webinar, for example, these will be updated within a week, usually just a couple days, to include a link to the event brief and an embedded video, which is the recording itself. So here's the example of the developmental evaluation webinar, which was a couple of years ago. And I'm not sure if we've shown off the event briefs before necessarily, but this is kind of the general format that they take as a quick description of what took place, what we learned, and what we'll use that information for, and any relevant links. And these are developed in both English and French too. So, I mean, that's really what we've been up to on the website lately. There, of course, will be updates to come still, but before the public launch, anyways, some of those upcoming updates will be sort of smaller, formatting, double checking that everything is where we want it to be. Small things to make the website experience a little bit more user friendly, et cetera, and any other prep needed for that public launch. And yeah, just a reminder that no longer needed once the launch happens, and we'll get that date once we have a date set for sure for that. We'll of course communicate that, but once that launch happens, login will no longer be needed unless using the project specific areas of the website, such as the troubleshooting forums. So that's it for the most recent updates. I mean, I welcome anyone to share any questions or comments that they have. I'll just take down the screen sharing for a moment. And if there are no questions, I'm just trying to check chat real quick. I appreciate the comments that you put in there. That's great. But of course, if there's any in your use of the website at any time, if there's anything big or small that you think could be working better or could be modified for whatever reason, we happily welcome that type of feedback at any time. Because we do want to make the website that one-stop shop for everything related to the KDE Hub, but also build that with the projects and in a way that is user-friendly for the projects and for users that come to the website.
Great, thanks so much, Eric.
Maybe, and Netta, just before you segue into the next one, really briefly, maybe just 2 points that I'll reinforce at the end here is the follow-up with projects. I think, Eric, you mentioned about absolutely on the description of projects, and I mean, as we described before, this is taking baby steps as we move towards that public launch. That there will be the current descriptions that are on there, with your review, and then following that, again, working together on these things. What we're envisioning based on feedback so far is a sort of similar template for an infographic for each project that can actually, help to bring each project to life a little bit more. And then some, ideally over time, and again, with support from the Hub, as you wish, but even some short video clips that we can, incorporate in there as well. And so again, not all things at once, but just progressing or building, those descriptions and the engagement with each project over time. And we understand that, each of you will be leaders in doing that, say on your own websites and other ways. We'd like to be able to support that when anybody comes to learn a little bit more about the collective, the MHPIF more broadly, which will likely, draw people to the KDE Hub website more than individual projects. So just wanted to mention that, and just something to plant one little seed, again, as we go public, because so far we've had the login for each project. We certainly understand that that doesn't make it as accessible for a large number of people. That was on purpose, to have that safe place to, kind of keep it under the radar, not going public, so we don't, preempt the federal government or yourselves in any kind of announcement. One of the things that we'll absolutely invite you to do is, share the website with anybody else from your project partners, etc., because it will be a much more accessible space without having that login on entry.
Awesome. Thanks, Eric and Barb. That was great. So in thinking about the forums that are on the website currently, we wondered whether there were specific topics that you folks might be interested in discussing on those forums. And so we're just going to launch a quick poll here. So the question is, what online forum topics would be of interest to your project? It's a multiple choice. And in French, quel sujet de forum en ligne pourrait vous intéresser? And the options for response are learnings about virtual engagement of target audiences, continued discussion of pandemic pivots, navigating ethics review, use of developmental evaluation, other, which you can note in chat, or you can say online forums are not of interest to me.
Yeah,
so
I just thought I'd throw out there that, well, first of all, the Navigating Ethics Review is already planned to be opened up, so that will be coming. But this is really about having that space available on the forums, because I guess what I'm just trying to say is that we can create these spaces for forums so that people can pose questions informally there whenever needed. They aren't currently there, but we can easily create those and open them up so that anyone, including the leadership team, the secretariat, can post. Yeah, I'm not sure if that clarifies.
Annette, have you posted the poll? A few of us don't see it.
Yeah, it is posted, and folks are submitting their responses. Maybe if you don't see it, if you wouldn't mind just writing in chat your preference, and also I was going to say for those on the phone as well. So I'll just quickly read these response options. So learning about virtual engagement of target audiences, more discussion about pandemic adjustments and pivots, ethics review, navigation, developmental evaluation, any other topics, or you can say that this is not of interest to you. Okay, and I will share the results of this poll because I think we've got everybody in. Okay, so it looks like learning about virtual engagement of target audiences was very popular, with 95% of respondents saying they're interested in that. And 50% also said continued discussion about the adjustments that folks are making in response to COVID-19. And then equal interest, 35%, in the ethics review, navigation, and developmental evaluation.
And there's another suggestion, in the chat about measuring social and emotional development and other measures of positive growth and mental health in children and youth. And that was also seconded, I believe, by Joey.
So thanks for that, everyone. All right, so I think with that, we'll just move right into the next part of the webinar, which is project sharing around pandemic pivots. So as you're probably aware, the FAC MHPIF team did share just some summary notes about the conversations that each of your projects teams had with the FAC IF team. So we heard from our needs assessment and other webinars, some shared interest in kind of understanding how the current pandemic context is affecting project work. And of course, the Hub shares that interest as well. So we thought it would be great to just dedicate a portion of this webinar to that discussion. And we've asked for projects who have made different types of adjustments to their intervention to the COVID context to briefly share their experiences just to kick off this discussion. So what we'll do is we'll hear from all 4 projects first, and we'll just go in alphabetical order. And then we'll just open it up to questions to those projects, as well as just an open discussion. And we're inviting everybody to share their experiences as well. So I think that's...
Sorry, I just wanted to mention that we'll stop the recording here as well as part of that project sharing, just so that that there's no barrier to any of the sharing that you wish to do. And I'll just hit that stop now.
Thanks, Eric. Yep.